What if I told you that the Cuba you think you know, the Cuba of classic cars, salsa rhythms, and endless sunshine, is just a sliver of the truth? Today, we're leaving the postcard behind and walking straight into the real Cuba. The real Cuba is a country of contradictions. It's where beauty and decay exist side by side. It's a place where vibrant music fills the air, yet many families don't have enough food to last the week. Behind the colorful facades and the world's most famous cigars, there's a daily struggle that few outsiders ever witness. Why does Cuba fascinate so many people? Maybe it's the romance of revolution, the mystery of a society frozen in time, or those images of 1950s Chevys rolling past grand colonial buildings. But dig a little deeper and another Cuba emerges. One of resilience, hardship, warmth, and quiet despair. This is the story of daily life on an island, just 90 miles from the United States, yet a world apart in almost every way. In this video, I'll show you both the hidden and the everyday. We'll talk about how ordinary Cubans survive in a system unlike any other in the Western Hemisphere. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to stand in a 5-hour queue just for a bag of rice, or to live through 15-hour blackouts, you'll find your answers here. Let's start where most visitors do, Havana. On the surface, this is one of the most photogenic cities in the world, a blend of Spanish, African, and Caribbean influences, bursting with color and music. But if you stray just a few blocks from the tourist trail, everything changes. Step off the well-swept path, and you'll see apartment buildings crumbling from decades without maintenance. In some areas, entire facades have collapsed, leaving behind piles of rubble. Locals joke that the only real danger in Cuba comes from above, the risk of bricks falling as you walk the streets. And this isn't just poetic license. Every year people are injured, even killed, by falling debris from neglected buildings. Why are so many of these places falling apart? After the revolution in 1959, private property was essentially abolished. The state took control of housing and promised to provide for everyone. But with limited resources and a crumbling economy, maintenance budgets vanished. If you want to repair your home, you'll have to buy materials, if you can find them, at sky-high prices. Most are simply unavailable to ordinary Cubans. Locals remember when this city was the jewel of the Caribbean, wealthier than many European capitals. Now, daily life is about making do with less. Less food, less electricity, less hope for change. And yet, Cuba is far from hopeless. The people here have a spirit and warmth that you feel everywhere. Music spills from windows, neighbors share what little they have, and there's a raw sense of survival that you don't see in many other places. But beneath that energy is a quieter story. A story of hunger, frustration, and often resignation. In Cuba, almost everything is rationed. Each family receives a small booklet called the libreta, entitling them to buy basic staples: rice, beans, a bit of oil, at subsidized prices. But the rations are never enough. If you want more or anything out of the ordinary, like chicken, eggs, or soap, you'll need to find it on the open market, at prices that would shock most locals. The average monthly wage in Cuba is around $15. Not a typo. 15 US dollars. Imagine living on that. Even if you could find all the basics, your salary won't stretch far. That's why so many Cubans depend on relatives overseas to send money or packages, and why the black market is a lifeline for millions. A typical day starts early for most Cubans. Before sunrise, people are already lining up outside the neighborhood store. Why? Because every product, chicken, cooking oil, bread, is sold in a different place, on a different day, and only if you're lucky. Most people spend 5 hours a day in queues, sometimes for a single item, only to be told it's sold out by the time they reach the front. And it isn't just food. Medicine, hygiene products, even school supplies are scarce. I met a mother who'd spent 2 weeks searching for antibiotics for her child, visiting hospital after hospital, only to be told there was nothing available. There's another daily challenge in Cuba that few outsiders truly understand: the constant, unpredictable power outages. Blackouts are a fact of life, sometimes lasting up to 15 hours a day. When the electricity goes out, families switch to charcoal stoves, and the city falls eerily silent. At night, Havana glows only in pockets, while most neighborhoods sit in darkness. These blackouts don't just mean no lights. They mean no fans in the tropical heat, no refrigeration for food, no internet access, and no way to keep in touch with family abroad. And if you're wondering about the internet, yes, it's here, but it's slow, expensive, and tightly controlled. Many popular websites are blocked, and for most Cubans, reliable access is still a dream. If life is so tough, why do we see all those gleaming classic cars everywhere? The answer is part history, part necessity. After the revolution, imports from the United States stopped. No new American cars or part came into Cuba. So families kept their old Chevys, Buicks, and Fords running by any means necessary. These cars are patched together with Russian parts, handmade fixes, even bits of household appliances. For locals, these museum pieces are just everyday transportation. A beat-up American classic can sell for $10,000 or more. A well-maintained one might cost $30,000, an impossible sum for most Cubans. Many drive old Russian Ladas, or if they're lucky, ride the city's Coco taxis, which look like giant yellow helmets buzzing through the streets. For tourists, Cuba can seem affordable. A decent meal, a room in a guest house, a ride in a classic car, it's all much cheaper than in Europe or North America. But that's the tourist economy, running in parallel to the local one. Some stores accept only foreign currency and their prices can be 3 times what you'd pay elsewhere. Ordinary Cubans are barred from many of these shops unless they have dollars or euros. This two-tiered system creates a daily reminder of inequality. It's common to see well-dressed foreigners enjoying a mojito on a terrace, while just around the corner, a local family wonders how they'll stretch their rations to the end of the month. If there's one thing that really signals change on the island, it's the emptiness of its towns. Havana now has nearly 5 million people, making it one of the most crowded cities in the Caribbean. Why? Because the rest of the country is emptying out. Young people are leaving in record numbers, heading for anywhere they can, from the United States to Europe and Latin America. In some villages, the only people left are the elderly and the resigned. You see, after decades of hope and promises, many Cubans have lost faith in change. There's a word for this: resignation. It's a kind of quiet acceptance that things will not improve, at least not anytime soon. Many of the young who remain spend their days plotting how to leave, or just trying to get by. So, what keeps people going? How do you find joy in a place where every day can feel like a battle? In the next part, we'll get closer to the heart of Cuban life. We'll meet families who make the most of what little they have, explore the rich cultural traditions that give the island its soul, and look at some of the rituals and celebrations that continue, even in the face of hardship. Enjoyed the video? Don't forget to ring the bell, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. It truly helps me out, and I promise to bring you even more awesome content. It's early morning in Havana, and the city is already alive, but not with the buzz of commerce. Instead, it's the sound of people shuffling to the local store, ration booklets in hand. Every product, rice, oil, bread, comes from a different place on a different day. The lines are already long, winding around the block. Here, waiting is part of the rhythm of life. People chat, swap stories, share tips about what might be available today, or who's just come back from abroad with a package. The libreta, Cuba's ration card, was first introduced in 1962, meant to guarantee every family basic goods after the U.S. embargo hit. Today, it's both a lifeline and a symbol of how little has changed in more than half a century. It's supposed to ensure no one goes hungry, but the truth is that most rations run out long before the month is over. The rest must be found on the open market or through friends, often at prices that swallow half a month's salary. Still, you'll notice something remarkable as you watch the crowd: a stubborn sense of humor. Cubans joke about their situation, about the endless queues, about the never-ending wait for change. No es fácil, they say. It's not easy. A phrase that carries more truth than irony. It's a shield, a way to cope with the absurdities of daily survival. Step into a typical Cuban home, and you'll see ingenuity at work. old appliances patched and repaired over and over, televisions from the 1980s still flickering to life, fans humming with motors replaced a dozen times. Everything is reused, recycled, or repurposed. Because it has to be. There's simply no other option. For many, daily life revolves around the kitchen, but even that's a challenge. Refrigerators stand mostly empty. There might be a few eggs, some rice, maybe a little oil if you're lucky. The rest comes down to improvisation. Blackouts are common, sometimes lasting more than half the day. When the power goes out, cooking moves outdoors, over charcoal or a makeshift stove. Water is precious and, in many areas, unpredictable. Most Cubans wouldn't dream of drinking from the tap. Bottled water is a must if you can get it. But meals are still a time for family. No matter how little there is, it's shared. Stories are told, laughter echoes, and for a moment, the hardships are pushed aside. Hospitality isn't just tradition, it's survival. One of the biggest myths outsiders hear is that Cuba has the best healthcare in the world. It's true that the island has produced thousands of doctors and nurses, many of whom work overseas in medical missions. But step inside a local clinic and you'll find a different reality. Empty shelves, broken equipment, and doctors who do their best with what little they have. Antibiotics, painkillers, even bandages can be impossible to find. I met a nurse who told me that some days she has to improvise with homemade remedies and prayer. For many, the revolution is a memory, a story told by their grandparents of promise never delivered. Yet, there are those who still remember the hope, the sense of unity and purpose that swept through Cuba in the early years. An elderly former teacher tells me, "We believed we could change the world. Now, we just hope for enough food and light to get through the day." Walk into a village school and you'll see both pride and pain. Children recite poetry and sing songs about the revolution, but their classrooms are falling apart. Teachers do their best with outdated books and broken chairs. The pride in literacy and free education is real, but so is the sense that the system can no longer deliver on its promises. In rural clinics, the picture is even bleaker than in the cities. Doctors are still respected, but medicine is in even shorter supply. People turn to folk remedies, herbal teas, and faith. Santeria and other Afro-Caribbean religions are strongest here, offering hope and healing when the hospitals can't. There's a sense of fatalism, a belief that life is what it is and you survive by accepting what you cannot change. And yet, people still gather for celebrations, still dress in white for religious ceremonies, still hope for a miracle. If there's one thing that never changes in Cuba, it's the island's natural beauty. Outside the cities, the countryside is breathtaking. Green mountains, red clay fields, white sand beaches. For many older Cubans, this is their true wealth. The land, the sea, and the sense of belonging to a place like nowhere else. But even this is bittersweet. Restrictions remain on travel and movement. Many need government permission to visit Havana or the tourist resorts. Freedom is always partial, conditional, never quite complete. In Santiago de Cuba, I visit the country's most important cemetery. Here lie the heroes: Antonio Maceo, José Martí, Fidel Castro himself. The graves are well kept, watched over by police and government workers. Visitors remove their hats out of respect. The cemetery is both a symbol and a lesson. Greatness and suffering, victory and loss, all buried side by side. In Cuba, history is never just the past. It's a living presence, shaping every day. There's a word in Cuban and Spanish culture, morriña, that means a deep longing for a place that is far away or unreachable. For many Cubans, this sums up their daily reality. Longing for family abroad, for a better life, for the promise of a brighter future. Yet this longing is also a source of strength. It keeps hope alive even in the hardest times. If you ask Cubans why they haven't left, why they choose to remain despite hardship, despite the endless lines and daily blackouts, you get answers that sound simple on the surface, but carry generations of meaning. My family is here. This is my home. I still love this land. But you soon discover another deeper answer. Survival here depends on more than ration cards and improvisation. It depends on a culture of resilience, on finding joy in small things and on making beauty out of scarcity. Step onto any Cuban street at sunset, and you'll find the city humming. A neighbor strums a guitar from a porch. Somewhere, drums echo off the broken walls. Even during the longest blackouts, music becomes the night's soundtrack, drowning out hunger and heat, uniting people in the dark. It's not just a pastime, it's a necessity. In Cuba, music is therapy, protest, prayer, and community rolled into one. It reminds people of what can never be rationed or restricted. Many families gather for impromptu dances or sing-alongs, and it's in these moments between power cuts and empty stores that you see the true meaning of resolver. Here, to resolve means to keep your spirit alive. On a quiet side street in Matanzas, I met an old man named Rafael. Every evening, he sits on his stoop and plays the same battered trumpet he's had since before the revolution. His songs are sometimes sad, sometimes triumphant. When I asked why he still plays, he said, "Because the music tells the truth, and because there are things we must not forget, even if everything else disappears." Scarcity, paradoxically, has made Cubans masters of creativity. In homes, you'll find appliances patched together from salvaged parts, art made from discarded bottles, clothes lovingly mended and remade. The famous Cuban classic cars aren't just tourist attractions, they're rolling monuments to ingenuity. People fashion spare parts from whatever's at hand, blending American, Russian, and Cuban pieces until the engines run again. This is everyday innovation, born of necessity. Art isn't limited to paintings or music. It's visible in every homemade repair, every clever hack, every neighbor who fixes your fan when the shops have none. This improvisational spirit is both pride and protest, a quiet way of saying, we will not be defeated. One evening during a blackout, I watched as neighbors in a crumbling Havana block brought out candles and food to the stairwell. Together, they pooled what little each family had. A few slices of bread, some beans, maybe a little coffee. They laughed, told stories, played dominoes. For a few hours, the darkness became a festival. One woman, Tanya, summed it up. "We are poor, but we are not alone. And as long as we share, we survive." Religion in Cuba is a patchwork. Catholic saints blend with African deities, and everyday life is laced with ritual. Santeria, with its white clothes and rhythmic drumming, offers both comfort and a sense of control in a world of uncertainty. People light candles for loved ones, pray for health, mark birthdays and quinceañeras with whatever they can afford. Even the smallest celebrations become acts of resistance, a way of claiming joy no matter what. On a Saturday morning in Camagüey, a procession of pink and white moves down the street. A 15-year-old girl in a dress borrowed from a cousin rides in a horse-drawn cart. Her friends walk behind laughing and tossing paper flowers. Neighbors wave from their doorways. For a day, the whole block feels lifted, proof that dignity and beauty can bloom even where money is scarce. Cuban humor is legendary. Jokes about politicians, shortages, and power cuts fly fast and free, even if sometimes it's safer to tell them in whispers. Laughing at misfortune isn't. Denial, it's a coping mechanism, a pressure valve, a declaration that life is more than what's missing. Older Cubans especially excel at this. They remember worse times and better times, and they know that, as one man put it, if you can't laugh, you won't last here. In almost every neighborhood, you'll find a group of men, and sometimes women, hunched over a domino table in the shade, arguing, slamming down tiles, and telling stories. It's not just a game, it's a social lifeline, a tradition handed down for generations, a place to forget, for a little while, the struggles waiting outside the circle of laughter. Family is everything in Cuba. Extended relatives often live together, pooling resources, raising children as a collective. When someone gets sick, neighbors check in. When there's a celebration, everyone joins, whether they have much to offer or not. In a society where the state provides little, community becomes the safety net. People help each other not just because they must, but because it's woven into the culture. Stories of neighbors saving each other's lives during hurricanes or sharing precious medicines are common and real. Every so often you see a family reunion on a Havana doorstep. Someone returns from years abroad, laden with bags of gifts or greeted with tears and laughter. These moments are bittersweet. Celebration mixed with the pain of separation, hope mingled with the reality that, for most, leaving is not a real option. All these scenes, music in darkness, art from trash, feasts amid famine, speak to the contradictions that define Cuba. This is a place where suffering is real and deep, but so is beauty. Where the past weighs heavy, but hope, however battered, still flickers. Cuba is not just a lesson in endurance. It's a testament to the ways people can build meaning and joy from almost nothing, and to how a nation survives not just through ideology or struggle, but through culture, laughter, and the stubborn refusal to let the world dictate its soul. If you're thinking about visiting Cuba, remember, what you see as a tourist is just one layer. Be curious, talk to people, listen more than you speak. If you want to help, buy from local families, eat at small paladares, home restaurants, tip fairly, and ask questions. The greatest gift you can give is respect and the willingness to see the truth, not just the image. If you have Cuban friends or family, reach out. Small gestures, a message, a package, a phone call, can mean the world. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you been to Cuba? Do you have family or friends on the island? What surprised you most about what you saw or heard in this video? Leave your story or your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and your experiences help others understand the world beyond the headlines. If this journey moved you, share the video so more people can discover the real Cuba. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to keep seeing honest stories about life in places that don't make the front page. In the next video, we'll travel to another country with a hidden side most people never see. If you thought Cuba was full of surprises, wait until you see what's coming up next. Click on the link to keep exploring the real world, one story at a time. Thank you for walking with me through the real Cuba. I hope you saw not just the problems, but the people. Not just the hardship, but the hope. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and never stop asking what life is really like. It will be beyond the surface. We are so glad you are with us today. Please leave a comment, like the video to support us, and subscribe for more videos. See you soon.